to be good when you trying to be epic. No, you don't gotta believe in me, nothing can stop me, I already said it. We taking over, making no excuses, they can't control us when they only shooting blanks. Don't obey the rules, we go against the grain, we fight the system until no one is a slave. I'm defying, I rise in a crisis. I know what the price is, I'll show them what a fight is. I'm the leader of the pack, I'm here where you at. Set the flame, light a match, I will fight back. I'm the leader of the pack, I'm here where you at. Set the flame, light a match, I will fight back.
The 2024 season for the Arizona Rattlers is going to be one that everybody will remember for a very long time. An unforgettable season that culminated ultimately in a championship. But along the way to get into that championship was a kind of a stormy path that this team went through. And it resulted in what everybody saw in August, that championship win over the Massachusetts Pirates. Hi, everybody. My name is Floyd Simmons. And I get a chance to sit down today with the head coach of the Arizona Rattlers, Kevin Guy, and talk about what happened this year. Talk about what happened with the Arizona Rattlers and how they got to that mythical 7th championship that they've now collected, that they've now won. And we're going to get a chance to do it here in the inner recesses of Desert Diamond Arena. So we welcome you in. We welcome you into the conversation. And I welcome in the head coach of the Arizona Rattlers. Kevin Guy joins me now. Coach Guy, this is a great place, and it's a great time to talk about what was a great season for you and the Arizona Rattlers.
It was a very difficult season, but we got through it, and I was really happy with our guys' effort and their mindset that they had down the backstretch. But in the end, it's not how you start; it's how you finish. And I thought our guys played well down the backstretch once we got healthy, and that's part of the story. And and everything starts at the top, right? It starts with our ownership group, Ron Schertz. He is fabulous to work for and gives us everything we need to be successful and puts a lot of trust in me with the organization. And I do appreciate that, and I do take it serious. And, we have a lot of good people in this organization. So I'm very happy for our players. I'm very happy for our assistant coaches, our football staff, our front office, and our fan base, Rattler Nation. So it's been a while, and we had been back to a couple of championships, but just didn't finish, didn't win those games, and we had a chance. And it was, the message all year long was finish, and that was what we were talking about, and our guys got it done.
So let's begin with the end, and let's talk about that finish. Let's talk about the championship. The Massachusetts Pirates have turned into an unnatural rivalry with the Arizona Rattlers. Cross-continent, different conference, and yet there's something about that matchup, something about playing the Pirates that brings out, in my opinion, the best of the Rattlers, and in most cases brings out the best of what the Pirates have to offer. And these two teams, there's no love lost. The competition between them is at the highest level that the IFL has to offer. So it's fun to watch. It's always fun to see. And when I heard that the Pirates had won the East and eventually knew that it would be the Rattlers and the Pirates in the championship game, I thought this is going to be an absolute slugfest. But it was the Rattlers who got the best of the Pirates in that championship round, capping off a 6-game winning streak at the end of the season. Your team finished 10-1 to win the championship, and in my opinion, played your best football when it counted most, which was the championship game. So let's talk about that, Coach. Let's talk about the win over the Pirates and what that was like, the experience for you, the team, for Rattler Nation to go and get to Vegas and collect that championship win.
Well, it was a great atmosphere. I thought our fan base did a great job of traveling and showing up for the game. It started there was a lot of energy in the building. I thought we were the more physical team. From the first play of the game, we kicked off and got a rouge and pinned them in deep. In that first drive, we was able to come away with a fumble as they were driving the field, and it was really over early, and I knew it. I knew, number one, I knew we were going to the championship game with about 2 or 3 games left in the season. I just knew how we were playing, that we were on the right path, and as long as we didn't have any more injuries, right? But from the kickoff, I just felt like we were in a different mindset. I could tell how we came out for warm-ups, that we were ready to go. And, physicality is something that we preach around here, and our guys were definitely the more physical team. We did a great job of executing, and, at halftime it was 29-0, I believe it was, if I remember right. And it was over early. And Massachusetts is a great organization. They've done a great job representing the East, and they've really been the most consistent team in the East over the last few years. So they've done a great job with that organization, but after them beating us in 21 here at our arena when we played downtown in Phoenix and on our home field, the guys that were still with the team from those years, I know that was an important game that they wanted to make sure we went out and took care of business.
Well, Coach, the championship win, you talked about the physicality of the team. Your defense played extraordinary, and it was the symbolic gesture at the end of the game was naming one of your defensive players, Devontae Merriweather, as the most valuable player of the championship game. It doesn't happen very often. It's a quarterback, it's a running back, might be a wide receiver. But for your defensive back and that stalwart defensive player of yours, Devontae, who's been a defensive player of the year in the IFL before, for him to win that was just, to me, it was the icing on top of the cake of a very physical game that your team played.
Well, it was important for me, and I think I told you this halfway through the season that, I wanted to win a championship for Merriweather. He has been a great player, phenomenal player for this organization, and we haven't been able to win a championship with him on the roster while he's been with us, and but he played really, really good down the backstretch. I think it was, obviously it was important to him, but it was important to me because we haven't really had any great football players come through here that didn't win a championship, and it kind of, he was the one that we wanted to get it for, and for him to get MVP, that was icing on the cake, and I was really happy for him. He's a super guy to be around. He keeps everything light and has a great sense of humor, and he's been fun to work with. So, and he's a really good athlete. And I'm really shocked that he hasn't been picked up by a higher league to give him an opportunity, because he is one solid all around athlete and makes a lot of plays. Got great hands, great athleticism. But we put some new defenses in. Some new concepts as we went down the backstretch that really fit his skill set, and he capitalized on that and made some big time plays for us.
Well, he's one of the key veterans on your team, and by the way, a team that is heavily laden with veterans now here as we go into the offseason, and we'll have a discussion about what you do next with a team that is, again, with a lot of veterans on the team, also in a league that wants to be young. I mean, the league wants to be young. That's the whole goal. And so there's going to be a lot of turnover, a lot of change in the offseason that we'll get to and talk about in a bit. But it was a championship win in August in Vegas for the Rattlers. They knock off the Pirates, win the 7th championship in the history of this historic organization. The most championships by far of any professional sports organization in Arizona history, something to be very proud of. But, Coach, it didn't just happen by accident. The 2024 season is one that you could not have scripted or predicted, and probably wouldn't have wanted. If you knew what you were going to face, all of the adversity, which began in the preseason, which continued when the season began, and there were a lot of dark moments and a lot of valleys to go through, if you would have known all that, would you have said, yeah, give me that challenge, I'll take it on? Because this team went through more than I think I've ever seen a team that eventually won a championship go through.
I think you got to take it a little bit further back to how we lost the year before in the playoffs. And, we lost to Naz in the playoffs. We had beaten them 3 times already in regular season. And, they had a good team. I thought definitely we were the better team. We just weren't the best team on that day, and they outplayed us. And we turned the ball over 6 times, and it really sent me into the off season, with a lot of question marks. And I've always been a person that, you got to look in the mirror first, look at yourself first. Are you doing everything you possibly can to put your players and the organization in a position to win a championship? And and I felt like I was going to have to make some tough decisions, in the offseason and going into free agency, how we were going to structure the team, and we did decide to move on from Drew Powell, and Drew has been an exceptional player for us. I love the kid to death. We still have a great relationship, and I followed his career even after we traded him away and he decided to go play in another league. But we just weren't getting it done. So I was looking to, hey, we may need to make some changes here. It started there, and and then during the off season, the opportunity came up for us to move the organization to Glendale. And that took a lot of time. I underestimated, and I can admit this, I underestimated how big of a move that was. And, Ron and I went and met with management here at Desert Diamond Arena, and we struck a deal, and it's been a great partnership for us. We weren't going to be able to physically move the organization because we were out in East Mesa at our practice facility. We weren't going to be able to move the organization until the first bye week of the season. Certainly, there was more than just moving furniture. I can tell you that. You got 31, 32 years of history over in one building that you got to move over, to Glendale. But it's been a great partnership, and I was really excited, about the move. I thought it was a very strong move for our organization. And that brings us to training camp, and you could tell right away that our character on the team has changed. This team was going to be a little different. The culture was different. You could tell that they were close from day one. Even Les Skelton, our director of team security, came up and told me, hey, there's something different about this team. You could tell that they really get along with each other well. They were working hard, and we had a great training camp. And then right at the end of training camp, going into our first game of the season, our athletic trainer had a car wreck. This was the first adversity hurdle that we had to get over, and the young lady had a car wreck on the way to work, flipped her car several times, had a severe head injury.
And the good news, Coach, is that she's doing better.
She is doing better. Yeah. We never got her back for the rest of the season, but she's doing better, and we'll look to see if we can get her back. Yeah. Because she was very popular with the players and with the organization because she did a really good job.
So there was a lot of change. That was a little element of the change that you had to work through and you had to go through. Personnel changes happened. You talked about Drew Powell earlier and the exit of Drew Powell. Somebody's got to fill that spot. Yep. Somebody's got to take over at quarterback, and you can't win a championship without a good, solid quarterback. And so you made a move in the offseason that brought somebody in that had some experience winning a championship. In fact, Dalton Snead won a championship the previous season with Bay Area. So you knew he could perform at the highest level. And let's talk about that acquisition and what that meant to the team in the offseason.
Well, we were looking to get someone that's been there, done that, and Dalton was a local player that he grew up in Arizona, played high school football here in Arizona, and I had heard through Coach Riggs up in Sioux Falls that he wanted to come back home, to play, and we had a conversation. We were able to lock him down, so we had we had somebody new at the helm going into the training camp, and I knew how important it was for it was a new offense for the quarterback. So that training camp, we went out and signed Garrett Kettle as well to come in and compete, and we had some good competition going in training camp. Dalton came out, the winner of that competition at the end of training camp, and then we kind of go into that first game, and we just got the news about our athletic trainer. There was some change there. We go up to Naz, and they beat us in the playoffs after we beat them 3 times in regular season. I know our guys it was get back time, right? So we wanted to get after them week 1. We were playing extremely well, and we were winning at halftime. I believe we were winning by 2 or 3 scores at halftime, and we go in at halftime, and Les Skelton again comes up to me and says, hey, there's something going on in the training room that you need to be aware of. And, I said, what's going on? So I walked in the training room, and I see Dalton Snead on the table, and they're checking out his knee. And it happened actually in the first drive of the game. And if you remember, we got stopped that first drive of the game. We drove down inside the 5, and we had a 4th down play, and he held on the ball a little too long and took a hit. But got that news at halftime, and we had to put Garrett in to finish the second half. We didn't know how serious it was, but as we found out when we got back, he had an MCL, and he was going to miss several weeks, and that led to a lot of other stories.
So you had a lot going on in the beginning part of the season. You had the injury to your quarterback when things were looking like, hey, maybe we've put together the roster we really like. The character of the team was something that you talked a lot about early on. You loved the mix of guys in the locker room. I know you felt confident in what the team could do, but now you start getting hit with injuries. The first few weeks of the season, you're battling through the move. You're moving it wasn't mid-season, but in the middle of action, you're playing games and you're moving into a new facility. And you had the challenge of all of that and how that distraction pulls you away from the day-to-day of football. So you have all these things going on, but it wasn't just the injury to Snead. You had other guys going down, other guys getting dinged up. The next thing you know, the team is 1-3, and you hadn't won a football game in a month.
Yeah.
So, talk about that valley you were going through.
Well, we wound up having 9 injuries, okay? And it started with our right guard got hurt. So we had to move Cole Carter from center out to right guard, and then we put a rookie center in, William Lay, who did an exceptional job. Both running backs got hurt in the first few weeks. We had a couple receivers get hurt on defense. Dylan Winfrey winds up getting hurt up in Bay Area. Merriweather got hurt against San Diego at home, and all of a sudden these are your middle pieces, right? Our nose guard got hurt, and we just weren't playing very consistent either on defense. Our defense was terrible. We just weren't playing Rattler football, and we were roster locked. There really wasn't anything we could do. We couldn't make any moves. And, if you go back and look at social media, I even said on one of those posts, hoping that our fans would get it, that it may get worse before it gets better. And it's not like you can just, hey, we're going to move you to the side and bring somebody new in. You got a 25-man roster with 4 injured reserve spots. The rest of them have to stay on your roster, so you can't really make any moves. And you can't cut them. You can't cut an injured player. So we knew we were just going to have to really focus on developing whatever young guys that we had left. And it wasn't like we were getting blown out. We didn't play well against San Diego at home, but, Bay Area, we fumbled the ball on the 2-3 yard line with a chance to win it there at the end. And we lost to Vegas at home on the last-second field goal on our home opener. During this time, we brought in Zoe. Zoe was a quarterback that won a lot of championships up at Sioux Falls. I didn't feel like Garrett knew the offense fully yet. He just got here. I wanted to have a more of a veteran presence and to kind of keep us in the hunt. We really didn't get no wins out of that move either. And we eventually went back to Garrett once I felt like he was more comfortable with the offense, and we got on a run there. Yeah. But, there was just a lot going on in those first 4 games of the season. We started 1-3. That's only happened to me once.
You went from 1-4. You eventually stabilized things a little bit. You got to 4-4 eventually. And when that happened, Coach, I remember talking to you before one of the games, and you expressed that the playoffs begin right now. It was a playoff mentality halfway through the season. You wanted to get to the playoffs. Everybody wants to get there. You can't win a championship without getting to the postseason in the first place. So now the first objective becomes get to those playoffs. And at 4-4, you felt like we have to win virtually all of our games from this point forward. And you just about did that. And so talk about the shifting mindset. It's playoff time now, halfway into the season.
Well, to be frank, and not a lot of people knew this, but, we finally got Dalton back, and he came back and played 1 game. And then we were out at practice on a Tuesday, and I see him throw the ball at the end of practice in a situation, or what we call situational football period, and I see him just kind of grab his side, okay? And, I end practice shortly after. We were walking back to the car, and I looked right at him, and I said, hey, did you pull your oblique? And he looked at me, and he was like, you saw that? And he was having some pain there. Went to the doctor. They thought he would be able to play through it. We go down to Tucson, and, Dalton walks in after, warm-ups and says, I'm not going to be able to go. Actually, when he put it on me, he said, "I want you to make the decision." Anytime a player says that, they're telling you they can't play. So we went with Garrett, and Garrett saved the day there. He came in. Garrett got hurt on the first drive of the game, hurt his shoulder, and he stuck it out and played the rest of the game, and we won a close game there. And that was a very important game for us because it did get us back to closer to that 500 mark and kept us in the playoff race. And the mindset kind of went to, we're not going to be able to lose too many more games. And I didn't know with Dalton, he had missed several games because of his first injury. Then he got hurt again. And I was getting to the point where I had to make the right decision for the organization. And it was kind of touch and go there for a while. And I didn't know, I was getting ready to pull the trigger on Dalton because if we couldn't keep him healthy, we weren't going to have a chance to make the playoffs, and I knew we couldn't lose too many more games. And I was very close to pulling the trigger on him and bringing another veteran quarterback in here to try to finish out the drive. And for Dalton's sake and for our sake, he was able to get healthy and fight through it. The rest of the season.
Games are played in quarters. You play a 4-quarter game to get to the end. And the season for you was like a 4-quarter game. We talked about being 1-3. That was the first quarter. You started to get some things right in that second group of 4 games. Let's talk about that stretch.
Well, we weren't playing very well defensively, and a lot of that was because of the injuries. We were missing all our middle pieces, and when you start losing, the nose guard, your linebacker, your safeties, you're in trouble. And so, I can't get that San Diego game out of my mind in the home game. They physically came in here and just whipped our butts. It was the first time in my career of being at the Arizona Rattlers in 17 years have I ever heard our fan base start calling the players out during the game, telling them they're soft, they're not playing physical. But they didn't have any idea that we had all the injuries we had. We do a good job of keeping that close to the vest here so nobody finds out what's going on with our organization.
I know I'm a broadcaster. When we're calling games, we'd like a little more information from time to time, Coach.
So, yeah, but, that if it ever leaks, it gives other teams advantages, so we don't like getting out. But, and I was disappointed when I left the building that night. Even Ron wasn't at the game in person that night, but he was up in New York watching it. He called me after the game. He wasn't happy. I wasn't happy. Our defense wasn't playing well. There was something going on with Jeff Jernigan, who's my right-hand guy, and he has been with me for a long time, and we've won a lot of football games together, and I depend on him a lot. There was something off with him. I couldn't figure it out. The defense wasn't playing well. He coaches the front end. I coach the back end. Me and him were having some disagreements during the week just because we weren't playing well defensively. We weren't physical. Now we get into the second quarter of the season, and we went up to Iowa to play Iowa. And it was another game that Dalton was out of the game. Garrett played. And Garrett played really well. I was really happy. And Garrett had shown some signs where whoever was hurt, Garrett would jump in. And he became a favorite of mine right away because we had some receivers hurt. He played the running back position, quarterback. He was like a Swiss Army knife. He could do a lot of different things. So tough kid. But he went and started for us against Iowa. Hard-fought game, but we found a way to win. And I never worked so hard to get a first down in my life, okay? It was just, all the things you got to think about with that many players out of the lineup. It was a struggle. But we were sitting in the locker room. We won the game. We're sitting in the locker room. And again, I'm not happy with how we're playing. It was ugly wins, but we were winning, and we were starting to win a little bit. And I know Jeff well. Jeff is as hard-headed as I am, okay, if not more. And I keep looking at him just like this, and I could see that every time I made eye contact with him, he kept looking away. He kept looking away. And I knew he was trying to hide something from me. And turned out he was having some health issues, okay, that he was, he's a tough guy, and and we talk about all the time that your personal issues are not always the organization's problems, right? So that's something that we teach to our players all the time. That everybody's got life, and there's life outside of work. And Jeff was doing a good job of trying to hide it from me. But Jeff was having some health issues, and I had to get very strong with him that night. I went and met with him at the hotel after the game, and I was very blunt with him, and I said, Jeff, you're going to the doctor as soon as we land back in Phoenix. And I said, if you don't go, and you had to talk to Jeff like this because he was very hard-headed. But I said, if you don't go, I'm going to fire you on Monday. And I was dead serious. And because he was not going to help us. He wasn't going to help himself if he didn't go see what was going on with him. Turns out he was having heart failure, okay? And the doc was like, you better be glad you came in because you might have had a week, okay? And that's how bad he was. And he spent like a week in the hospital. His family flies down. We're checking on him, every day. And he's been so important to this organization and the success of this organization. And again, I've said it, earlier that he's my right-hand guy. And I have a lot of trust with Jeff. We work well together. We think a lot alike. And when he went down, I immediately started looking for a replacement, right? Because I didn't know how serious this was. I didn't know how long it was going to take. But knowing Jeff, like I know Jeff, the doctor got him on the right medication when he first came back, but he started feeling better towards the second half of the season. And I knew we were back because you win football games in the trenches. And he coaches the D-line, and he also coaches our special teams. And especially there's a lot of hidden yardage, hidden plays on special teams. And so what he does for us is very important. When he started getting healthy, the D-line started playing better. Our defense started playing better, and I knew we were going to have a chance to win a championship.
How long
at that
did
point.
it take to get him back to where he was fit?
I would say
he was doing it.
Yeah, I would say a good month and a half.
Yeah.
And I got his permission to talk about it because I felt like it was an important part of this story, this journey that we had this season. But you can't replace a guy like that. We always talk about everybody's replaceable. Jeff is a very important piece to this organization and does a lot for us. And he's the coach that I've ever worked with in any organization that has his mindset is like mine. That we're going to have a physical football team and we're going to have some tough guys in that room.
That other half was certainly needed in the second half of the football season, and it helped to make a lot of difference. And there were some other, I don't know if it's too early to interject a name right here and talk about a guy that I thought was part of the glue that did hold this team together in the roughest of moments. I'm talking about number 17, Niger Jackson, if you knew I was going there, because I think that he proved himself invaluable to the team this year, especially when things were rocky. He just seemed like a guy that was just always there for you, always doing whatever the team needed done. And his physical play for a receiver, his physical play helped set a tone out there for you guys.
There was 3 or 4 players that we brought in during the season that we didn't have in training camp that were a perfect fit for what we were looking for. Niger Jackson was one of them. And the teams heard me say this. Niger Jackson was the toughest kid on our team. I mean, he was a tough kid. Would cover kickoffs better than anybody we had on our team. So I called up Niger and we got him in here. And I did that because he played with Dalton last year in Bay Area, and I thought it would help settle Dalton down a little bit, make him a little bit more comfortable.
So, you'd seen him on video before. You'd played against him.
100%.
But were there things you learned about him? Was he
I can tell you from coaching against him the year before, he was the one guy when we played Bay Area, we were like, that guy's a difference maker, and we had to account for him, and they beat us up there. We beat them at home. We really thought we were going to see them, in the playoffs, probably in the conference championship game. And we finished as the number 1 seed that year. Niger came in and was the best fit possible. And the development of Corey Reed was so important. We had 2 big bodies at that wing and X position, and then you got the old captain out there, Mr. Reliable, Jamal Miles. We knew we had a chance once we got that personnel on the field.
So we get to the halfway point of the season. Your team is 4-4. It's the playoffs begin for you at that point, at least psychologically. You talked about it every week. It's the playoffs. And the team responded to that, didn't they? They really took that challenge on, and they felt that urgency from that point forward.
They did. We couldn't afford to lose. And we only lost 1 game down the backstretch, and that was up in Vegas. And there was a phase where we were winning. They were ugly wins, but we were figuring out a way to win, And probably the biggest test of the year is when we were kind of in that third quarter of the season we went over and played San Diego, and they whipped our butts at home, and we knew it was going to be a physical game. We didn't play well offensively. Dalton had about 3 picks. We missed a lot of run reads. We got combo reads between the running back and the quarterback. There was a lot of run reads that were missed. They were physically getting after us up front on the D-line, but we get the ball back with a chance to drive. Even in that drive, we started going backwards before we went forwards, okay? And it was like, man, I've never worked so hard to get a first down. And we're just kind of going down the field. We get down there, and we run a little rub play on offense, and Dalton hits Isaiah Houston for the touchdown. And we win that game. Then our defense holds them, and they miss an extra point, a field goal, and we get out of there with a 1-point win. Now we weren't playing as well on offense. We weren't running routes and catching balls as we should have, and we needed to play better depths of routes. All that stuff plays into how the quarterback plays. So, you see fans all the time, oh, the quarterback's terrible. They start blaming the quarterback for everything. They have no clue what goes into quarterback play and what has to happen around the quarterback play for him to be successful.
All right, Coach, talking about the second half of the season now, let's dive into a critical moment for you, which really resulted in the only loss you had in the second half of the season. That was a trip to Las Vegas. It's an opportunity for you to perhaps secure a home playoff game. So there was a lot riding on this game, very important. Your team was playing well. You were in the crest of a winning streak at the moment, and you want to keep that momentum going. But you go to Vegas, hard-fought game, doesn't go your way.
It doesn't, and the whole trip didn't go our way. So we need to win this game to get a home field. We've worked our way back into a position to get a home field playoff game, and that was important to us. Our first year being at Desert Diamond Arena, and we had a great week of practice. In our league, the home team supplies the hotel for the visiting team and the pregame meal. Okay,
you're going somewhere.
So there was a little bit of gamesmanship by Las Vegas, but we go up to play them. And we go to pregame meal, and we get there, and, Jeff had already called him like 4 times. Yeah, it's ready. It'll be ready when you get here. We get there, and no pregame meal, right? So we went and took care of it ourselves. But a little gamesmanship on Vegas' part to try to throw us off track, right? Or mentally, right?
Sure.
And it worked. Okay, it worked. Now Vegas is claiming they didn't do that on purpose. I get it, but there's a little gamesmanship that goes on in this business, and I know when someone tried to play us. All right, so it is what it is. So now Jeff's all fired up before the game. Because he's in charge of logistics when we go on the road, and so we get to the game and we play them, and we jump out on them fast early, and got an interception, had a chance to go up, and after that interception, it was a second down play, and Dalton kind of tries to force one in there. He got a little pressure, and he tries to force one across the middle, and it got picked, and we lost the opportunity there to kind of take a lead, and we just didn't play well as a team. We wound up losing the game. We got to learn how to win big games, and that was kind of, that our first chance to win a big game when it mattered, when it counted, when there was some money on the line, and so we lose that game, and now we're in a position where we definitely have to win out, or we're going to miss the playoff.
And you did it. You won out.
So we had to go to San Antonio, and they had a quarterback named Sam Casanova, and he was special. Okay, he could throw it. I mean, he would, hands down. I told the team, the rest of the coaches in the league think this guy's the best quarterback. You got to say that because your quarterbacks are sitting in the same room, right? But the truth is, I even thought, I was like, this Sam Casanova is special, Yeah. But I've always thought me and Jeff are pretty good together game planning when we play teams that have one person that we got to take away versus, what we try to build here at the Rattlers. You got to worry about 3 or 4 guys.
Well, we talked about the playoffs starting for you at the midpoint of the season. Mentally, psychologically, it really did. But the actual playoffs began with a road game for you at Vegas. A team that you struggled with a couple of times during the season, played close, but still, Vegas got the best of you. Now it's a chance to go to their place and exact some revenge. And the most exciting game that I think I've been a part of in my years working with the Rattlers was that game on the road and that last-second win. Making the right play call, the perfect play call at the end of the game to win and hand them a loss, move you on in the playoffs. So let's go to Vegas and talk about the first round of the playoffs.
Well, we knew it was going to be a tough game. Their quarterback had an exceptional year, very good athlete. Again, Mike Davis and his staff did a great job throughout the season. And now they've beaten us twice. They beat us on a last-second field goal at home. We go up there. I believe they win 55-51. Real close game at the end. And we know we got our work cut out because, again, Vegas, I still feel Vegas was the most talented team in the league last year. And so we go in and play them. It's a packed house. I mean, the atmosphere was outstanding. We're chasing a little bit throughout the game. They got just a little bit of a slight lead on us throughout the game. And our defense comes up with some really big stops. Merriweather, he lives in Vegas, so I knew he was going to play well. And he made some key plays, got some interceptions in that game that turned the game around. And we knew, and our message all week to the players was, all we have to do, guys, is get them to that 1 minute. One of the things we take a lot of pride in this organization is clock management, and we work it every day. And we felt like if we could get them to that 1 minute situation, that we could out execute them in that in that situational football. Sure enough, it's exactly what happened. Our defense comes down. They got the ball. In fairness, they probably should have ran the ball twice and made us use our timeouts, and they didn't. And we had knocked a couple of their players out. We knocked one of their receivers out early in the game. We knocked out the quarterback late in the game. Either we knocked them out or they didn't trust them at that point in the game. I don't know. I got my own team to coach, so I'm not going to try to figure out what they were doing. But they didn't run the ball, and when they didn't run the ball, it really surprised us. And we knew we had a chance to not only get the ball back, but have time to go back down the field. And Dalton was like, hey, let's go back to it. And as we were sitting there discussing how we wanted to attack them, and it was a play that we call it jump to, but we had our running back jump to out of the backfield. It was actually the perfect play for that personnel because, we knew we wanted to run behind Mady. Miles is our best blocker. Corey Reed and Najir Jackson out there at the wing and X, who are big bodies that were going to be able to get on those receivers and control them. And then we pulled Mady and had Dalton follow him around the end, and you could see the determination of the team on that play. And then once we got past Vegas, now it was like, what's going to happen between Bay Area and San Diego?
And San Diego did beat Bay Area, which gave you then a home game. Unexpected, but in the conference championship game, you get to come back home and you get to host San Diego, a team that you had some difficulty with during the season, and now it's a very physical team. We've talked about that before. But also keep this in mind, right? You beat Vegas, a team that you called for a long time. You called them the most talented team this season in the league. So with them in the rearview mirror and a victory over them, you had to know that we've got a chance to win the whole thing. And that mentality existed for you throughout the season with your personnel group. However, that moment had to feel good for you. Now you get San Diego at home. The result was a 58-23 victory for your team, a dominating performance in the conference championship game. What was it about the Rattlers then at that point of the year that you could put together? And that's not the last time you would dominate. We'll get to a championship game here in a moment. But what was it about the Rattlers now in the second round of the playoffs that they were playing so well?
We can't get into our arena to play the next round till Monday. So we actually have some extra days to kind of heal up our bodies a little bit because it was such a physical game in Vegas. But our guys were ready, and they knew, hey, we win this one, we're in the show. And that's what the whole goal was, to get to Vegas and win in Vegas. Our defense, I think we intercepted their quarterback like 4 times, I believe it was, or 5 times, whatever it was. And Ish, right? Whatever the number was, we got a lot of turn. Yeah. I know we opened up the second half. We went at halftime, winning by more than one possession, but it was the way we came out in the third quarter. Our defense has 2 pick sixes, runs them back for touchdown. Merriweather runs one back, and Dobbs runs one back, and so And now, we're blowing that thing open, and we know we're going to the championship. And now the fourth quarter was like, let's manage this thing. Let's get out of here healthy so we can get ready for the championship, even though we got a bye week going into the championship game. But we got after them. And, again, it was, I go back to the defensive game plan. It's on film. They can go look at it. But, we wanted to take away their quarterback. He is very, very accurate and throws on time and creates a lot of problems for you. And we had to figure out a way, how do we get pressure but also take away what he's trying to do down the field?
Yeah, Nate Davis is that quarterback, and I think people will universally acknowledge that he's one of the best passers this league has seen for a really long time. And what your defense was able to do to get him off his game was pretty extraordinary. And their offensive lack of production really, speaks for itself in that game. So kudos to you and the defense coach. That win gets you to the championship, which we're going to get to. But I think we need to stop for a moment and talk about what the Vegas win accomplished and what it accomplished for you in your own personal life and your story as a head coach in this league and in other leagues. You didn't put it on the notes that you wanted me to cover in this discussion. So I'm just going to go out there and I'm going to bring it up myself. The win over Vegas gave you win number 262 in your long career in the AFL, in the IFL. That is now, after passing Curtis Riggs with that 262, that's the most wins. You'd get two more to add to it before the season ended. The most wins anybody has ever put together or collected in the history of indoor football leagues of any kind. It's a pretty extraordinary accomplishment. Coach, first of all, congratulations on reaching that point. And did it have any special meaning for you? I think it ought to have. You've got a lot of coaching left in you. You're going to coach for years to come. You're going to keep breaking that record every time you get a win from this point on, Coach. But that was huge. It was huge for the Rattlers. It was huge for fans of the Arizona Rattlers, Rattler Nation. And I can't help but think that had to be a big accomplishment for you personally.
Well, I'm a competitor like anyone else. So, when you put your name on something, you want to sign your work with excellence. And, I think if you look at the whole body of work, I'll be the first one to say you can't do that without some Hall of Fame players. You can't do that without some excellent assistant coaches. Again, Ron, our owner, Ron Schertz, has played a major part in a big part of those wins. A lot of those wins have been here at the Rattlers. I mean, I was successful at some other places, but a lot of those wins were here at the Rattlers. And when you have the right ownership that gives you the things that you need to be successful, that's, I'm always appreciative of that. And, just the support staff. You got to have good people. And this organization has always had good people in it, people that are competitive, that want to win, that want to put a first-class product on the field. So I'm still fairly young coach, even though I started wearing the glasses. Like, we kind of left that out in the story, but
we got some good
once I
footage
started
of you.
wearing
Okay.
once I started wearing those glasses, now we started playing a little better. But I still got a lot of years in me, and I don't know how long I want to go. I've always said that I'll do it as long as Ron Schertz wants to do it, but I will reevaluate things if Ron ever decides to not do it anymore. But nothing's forever. And, what I've learned over the years is you got to enjoy it. I think when I was younger, I didn't enjoy those championships when we won 3 in a row. I was so worried. The next day, boom, we're back to work. We got to start building for next year. And, I think sometimes you got to take a pause and look back and enjoy, the journey, right? And everybody talks about the process but the thing in this business, as soon as it's over, it's over. You got to move on to the next year, right? You don't really have a lot of time, to celebrate it. But and I wouldn't be able to do it without my family. I get a lot of support from home, and it's been kind of cool. Ron did something for me that was kind of cool. He has that whole VIP area down by the field, but when he bought the team, he said, "I want your family sitting right here, where they can see what you do and be a part of it and feel it." And that meant a lot to me, that my kids got to grow up seeing what Dad gets to do, kind of sees me in the heat of a moment. they know that I'm the disciplinarian at home, so they get to see me take it to a whole nother level when I'm with the players, right? So, but just them being a part of it, and when we won the championship, Cody was the first one. My son was the first one over the wall that ran out and gave me a hug on the field, and that meant a lot to me because when we had won the one in 17, they were a little older, but the championships in 12, 13, 14, they were too young really to remember those runs. And Cody's, my son, my daughter Alexa, but Cody's always been a little bit of a part of our locker room. Cody's grown up around the players, right? And I think that's given him an advantage in his own career. But growing up around these guys, being around it, so it was special to me. And then our fan base, we got the best fans, and they believe in this organization, and we've always done a good job of putting a great product on the field on a consistent basis, and I hope they appreciate that. I hope they enjoy it because it's very rare when you look around the country how many sports teams have had a run that we've had, over the years. So I'm just blessed to be a part of it, and I'm nowhere near done. So I think we're gonna continue to make a run here.
Well, the only thing that could have made that moment better is if it had happened at home. Unfortunately, it had to take a road playoff win.
No, it happened. It happened at the right place in Vegas.
Yeah.
Against Vegas, after the whole pregame meal thing,
I get you.
That was karma. And so karma coming back. I love karma.
So that did make it that much more sweet, I guess, for you. That game was followed up with the conference championship win that we just described a while ago over San Diego. What a win for you and the team. And now the snowball is rolling down that mountain because the way your team was playing, there was no stopping the Rattlers. We would find out in the championship game how true that would become. But I kind of worried about this, Coach. The way your team played with that emotional, close, last-second win in Vegas, and then the domination over San Diego, at what point do you run out of that steam, right? Did you ever have any worries going into the championship game that we might have peaked already?
I knew we were winning that game before we even played it. The leadership in our locker room, you start on the offensive side of the ball. The addition of Dalton, Snead, even Garrett, as I never referred to the other quarterback as the backup quarterback.
Yeah.
They're the other quarterback because you don't know when you're going in the game. You got to be ready to play. I hate calling them backup quarterback. Both those guys showed exceptional leadership throughout the year. Jamal Miles, Lamar Mady, great Brooks, Cole Carter. We just had Niger Jackson came in and brought some toughness, to the team. And then you go to the defensive side, and it starts with Winfrey and Merriweather, and then you look at Connor Taylor, at linebacker and his leadership. One of the pieces that we didn't talk about that we picked up a lot like Niger Jackson was Roderick Perry at nose guard. When we brought him in, he was a difference maker. And a lot, our fan base don't know this, but he actually that first week in the offseason after the championship game, the Packers brought him in, and we were very happy for him that he got an opportunity, got a shot, and but he was an exceptional player for us and kind of solidified that defense line because when you're good down those middle pieces, that nose guard, that linebacker, those safety spots with Winfrey and Merriweather, you could go and develop those perimeter players, right? Those middle pieces, they're important. And I just knew going into that championship game that those leaders, there was no way they were going to allow us to lose that game. And, we had some fights at practice, and I'm good at, tweaking and needling people a little bit. So, when I saw the intensity at practice and how we were getting ready for the games and that happened starting probably around San Antonio week, and it started becoming a every week thing that there was some intense, practices and some guys getting up in each other's faces and some little arguments and some fights and I always knew we were ready to play because that was just getting the jitters out, right? And now we get to that championship game and it was total domination from the time we kicked off. to the end, we were the more physical team, and look, they do a great job in Massachusetts, but that game was our game. And it was taken from us in 21. It was taken from us in 19. There was some, we had 7 guys, I believe, that were still here from 2017. So we had some guys that really wanted that game. And I could just how we carried ourselves, throughout the week, and even at the media day, the press conference, and then really the most intense part was before the game, and the fans didn't get to see this, and the public eyes didn't get to see it at all, but they brought us out for the national anthem, or for introductions, I should say. For introductions, Massachusetts was already there in the tunnel, so they were going to call them out first, then they were going to call us out. Well, I don't know who schedules this, but they got Massachusetts sitting in the tunnel, and they got a curtain between us and the Rattlers players. That's all that's in between them. And the jawing starts, right? The jawing starts. And I'm at the beginning of the Rattler line, ready to go to the tunnel. And next thing I know, we're being told by someone that we're on a TV timeout. And we sit there for 15 minutes. And I really think that we're going to go to blows right there in the tunnel. And these players are jawing back and forth. But, theirs kind of came across as a little bit of false security.
Oh, gotcha.
It was a little bit of false security there.
Yeah.
Our guys, I knew my guys. I was with them every day.
Yeah.
And I knew our guys were ready to play. And we just came out, and I think that just put more gas on the fire.
Yeah.
And for that 15 minutes, I was like, I'm going to have to keep these guys, because we was having to separate them, and it was getting tough. I already told the commissioner, I was like, hey, I don't know how you set that schedule up, but don't have those two teams sitting by each other like that ever again.
All that separated you was a thin layer of gabardine. And Coach, I'm telling you, the end result here is that you guys get fired up before the game.
Yeah.
But you guys come out and you set the tone. So you got the Rouge. You get an early lead with that. You get a turnover and a takeaway and a touchdown. You have a 29-0 lead at halftime. And while those leads haven't always stood up, there was something about that feel and that sense. It just felt like before you ever got to the locker room for the halftime discussion, that Massachusetts had kind of checked it in mentally. And, this false bravado that might have been going on the other side of the curtain in the pregame, it played out in the first half.
Well, their effort did not match our effort at all when you look at it. And if I was running that organization, I certainly am looking at that film going, hey, we got some tough decisions to make this offseason. But, to me, we get the Rouge, we get the fumble, and we get into a third down on our first offensive drive. And they really got Dalton really pinned in. And he somehow figures out a way. And I thought it was a key play of the game. Because it could have went either way if we got to that fourth quarter and didn't convert, right? So, but he figured out a way and broke a long run and got knocked out of bounds down in the red zone area. But I thought that play was a key play in the game to kind of get us, going offensively. And then he throws a touchdown pass to Jamal Miles off a play action, and then we were off and running. And then when our defense came out and got the second stop, then I knew right then. I said, hey, this is. We're going to be ready to put this thing in coast mode for too much longer. But there was no denying these guys. They were ready to play.
There's not a lot to say about it. 53-16. I mean, your team, that snowball that I described a while ago from the San Diego win, it just kept getting bigger and bigger. And it resulted in the dominant championship that your team was able to collect. Was it kind of sweet thinking back to the various games that have taken place between you and Massachusetts? 3 years ago, they beat you in a championship game. Since then, they had a little bit of a scrum in the stands with your fans, creating a little bit of ill will, particularly between them and the fans, not as much team to team. But after all of this and this growing rivalry with Massachusetts, was there some sweetness to the victory for you?
You know what? The sweetness came from the whole journey, the whole process of the season, looking back at all the adversity that we had, and the decisions, it was the first chance that, all these decisions we made in the offseason. Yeah. And you got to, our coaching staff was exceptional. Kevin Ashak, Saya Burley, Mo Brown, and the whole staff, just really we really made some really sound decisions this year and put ourselves in a position to go win this championship. But when I look back at the process, the journey of the whole season, just the move, the injuries, the health issues, trying to get on the same page with your quarterback when he missed so many games and it was a new offense for him. And, how do we put him in a position to be successful? And there was just so many things that, we had to add some pieces as the season went on. And those pieces turned out to be really good pieces for us. And for us to win the championship the first year in this building, it meant a lot to me. I know it meant a lot to me. Our fan base is excited about next season. We're already above 80% on renewals and got a lot of new business coming our way. So on the business side, we're very excited about this partnership here at Desert Diamond Arena. We have a committed owner in Ron Schertz, he expects to win the championship every year. And you got a head coach that expects to win the championship every year. Now, does it happen every year? No, but it's not going to be from a lack of trying. And we're certainly going to put our best foot forward. And we're all competitors, and we want to win, and we want to be the best at what we do.
Well, this roster is going to look a lot different next year, isn't it? I mean,
it will.
And it has to look a lot different. This league is designed to stay young. They want to stay young, and they want parity. Todd Tryon and the home office, the commissioner's office, wants this to be a league where a number of teams year in and year out get a chance to win a championship or have a shot at it. And one of the ways you do that is you keep the league young, right?
And it is. And I know our fans have been frustrated because we haven't won more championships in the last few years. But I want to say this. No organization since we've joined this league has won more games than the Arizona Rattlers. No organization since we joined this league has won more championships than the Arizona Rattlers. We have had 7 straight years. We're the first team to repeat since 2017 since we went to this model. And so I think it says a lot about the people in our organization and the work that goes in. So don't take it for granted.
Yeah.
This is very rare of what's going on in this sports organization. And, to speak on what you were just talked about, we're going to have 16, we had 7, I think we won it with 6 veterans, but we have other guys now turning into veterans. So, and what a veteran is in this league is on your 4th year, you get labeled as a vet, and you can only have 7 players with 4 years of experience or more. They do want to keep it young, and it's a developmental league. And so we got 16 veterans now. Now, some of the players have already told us some of them are going to retire and move on with life. So love them while they're here, appreciate them, build those relationships, but they're not going to be here forever in this business model.
Well, congratulations, Coach, on a great season. The story of the season is going to be retold by Rattler Nation for a long time to come. It was an extraordinary year and a different year than any of the championships won by this organization in the past. Congratulations.
Thank you.
As we walk out the door here, is there anything else you want to mention to us? Is there a little nugget of anything you want to leave us with?
Well, I would just say that, you brought up we have 16 vets now, and we got to make some decisions. We got to get that down to 7, and some guys are moving on with life. They're retiring. One of those players is Dalton. He came in, he did his job, and helped us win a championship, but he decided to move on with life, and he's going to, he's taking a job and getting his family going and all that. And that put us in a position where we were in the quarterback market. And so I decided to have a conversation with an old quarterback and someone that understands what he missed out on and understands what being with the Rattlers means. And he's fired up, ready to come back. But we're bringing Drew Powell back, and we're going to give him an opportunity to compete for the job. And we're excited about it. I've always said Drew's a dynamic player, and I think him taking a step back and seeing how things went this year and kind of missing out on a few things. I know he even said to me, "Hey, Coach, his heart was broken when we decided to make that decision." I told him that that was both of us, but we had to make tough decisions in this decision. But again, I stayed in touch with him because you know how this business is, and you never know how things are going to work out. And I love Drew. I've always have loved Drew. I think he's a tremendous player, and he's a dynamic player, and he makes defensive coordinators worry. So we got an opportunity to get him back. We're going to bring him back. We're going to bring some other quarterbacks in, but there's going to be some competition. But we're committed to winning, and we're going to do everything we can to be there at the end.
QB1, Drew Powell, back in the fold. Amazing, amazing, and that is going to lead to a
Competition.
That is, yes, competition. He gets to compete for the job. What an offseason this is going to be. That's a great note to begin the offseason with the Rattlers on, and there'll be a lot of discussion by the fan base moving ahead. I can't wait to see what things are going to look like in the springtime when we get to play ball again. Coach, it's been a lot of fun.
We're excited. We're excited to go into the offseason. We're looking forward to it, and I'm sure Rattler Nation will be hearing from us.
All right, Kevin Guy, Floyd Simmons, Rattler Nation, enjoy your offseason. Enjoy those discussions. We'll see you on social media, and we'll see you in the arena coming up in the springtime. And we'll talk to you again real soon here from the Snake Pit.